But behind closed doors, I'm a fool for your love.
So, most of you probably already know this, but if you don't, the PTR is going to be adding a few new patches and going to be coming out with a few new features very soon. And while I can't actually use those and I can't do anything more than, do my research and see how other people are reacting to it, I will be constantly updating you guys as much as I can with, what's going on, how these changes are being affecting the game, and essentially if they are going to be coming to competitive very soon. So, without further ado, let's get into the features. First of which is the group up function is being removed. Now, I am sure this is heartbreaking to many of you, and I'm sure half of you have already sold the game by now just, hearing about this. But do not fear, the group up feature never really worked as intended anyway. A lot of the times it just ended up making you, get into games that were harder than the ones that you originally started out playing with. Just because matchmaking works in the sense of the larger the group, the higher your opponents are going to be, and the better your opponents are going to be. If you're essentially a diamond level, 6 stack, you might be going up against another, group of players that are a bunch of randoms, but they could be up into 3500s and up to the master ranks. So, while the group up feature was a good idea, it kind of was counterintuitive, and instead of winning more, you ended up just losing more because you were facing opponents way out of your caliber. The next feature is something that's very interesting, and it's either going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. Now, this is a feature called the Premium Reporting feature, and essentially what this is that for $8.99, and that's either pounds or dollars, I don't really know, I'm guessing it's pounds, but for $8.99, you are able to report a player, whether it's for, smurfing, whether it's for throwing a game, bad sportsmanship, or whatever that legitimate concern that you had with that player is. For $8.99, you're able to report that player, and then Blizzard will have a designated team that will review all of these reports and determine, is this just a petty argument that you just didn't like that player and that you thought he was stupid and that he picked Widow when you don't think Widow is a legitimate player? Or was this a legitimate concern that, the player wasn't playing well, he was getting very angry, he started throwing the game, and then he left on purpose? Now, once Blizzard reviews this, if they determine that the player and that your complaint was legitimate, they will credit your account $11 or $10.99. Now, and this is really interesting because essentially if you were reporting players and these are legitimate reports, then you're going to earn money and the community is essentially rid of those players, those toxic players that are ruining the game. Right now, Overwatch is in a very fragile state. There are players and there are reports coming out that players have, are starting to say, pay me $5 or I'll throw the game. And there are players that just come in, and if someone chooses a player they don't like, they automatically throw. And Overwatch, as good of a game it is, it's a very toxic game at the same time. So this feature is either going to help eliminate that, or it's going to go very badly, just for the fact that kids are going to be kids, and immature kids are going to be immature, and just people are going to take advantage of a system whenever they see fit. So this system could go very well, or people could just start exploiting it and start trying to make money off of it, which is exactly what Blizzard doesn't want them to do. But, we're just going to have to kind of see how it goes. I'm hoping that the community is upright and upfront about this, and that they really take this system and roll with it, and they make it a good thing and not a bad thing. The next thing that's going to be coming is a voice recognition software. So this essentially is going to be looking for key terms and key phrases that are very negative to Overwatch. So if you start saying, where's my effing healer? If you start saying, what the hell? Or if you start cussing, or if you start really making fun, if you start using the N-word or just profanity in general, then this system is going to look at that and then look at your gamer profile and report it back to Blizzard. And you can probably... They didn't really talk about what's going to happen if you do get caught with this. I'm sure we'll find out in the future. But I'm guessing they could, suspend your account for a few days, or knock you out of competitive, lower your rank, or even just kind of kick you off. If you do it enough, probably kick you out of the season and make you wait till next season to play again. I don't see any negatives with this. If this is just going to be a software that's looking out for key terms, fine. If you're in a friend group, if you're, just playing with your friends and you're just joking around, I can see it kind of being a negative thing, but it's just going to try to make the game a much more positive environment, and that's something I am all for. With this, there's also going to be a feature that makes you join team chat. So there will be no more sitting in a group chat and, avoiding talking to your team. Essentially, you're going to be forced to join team chat, which I love. There's no reason that you shouldn't be in team chat, although my one big concern with this feature is that if you're playing on Xbox One or PS4, we have party chat, which is essentially against the game, and it's something that doesn't include in the game. That it's just, if we want to be in party chat, we don't have to be in team or group chat. We don't even have to be in the chats that are relevant to the game. It is a separate system on the Xbox and PS4. And with this, I'm wondering if it's going to be like old Call of Duty, where they had a whole playlist that you could not be in group chat, and essentially if you wanted to play, it would pull you out of group chat and say, gee, would you like to, disassemble your group chat? And a lot of the times, if I wanted to play on that playlist, I would just leave the group chat. Or if I didn't, and I didn't feel like talking to a bunch of random people, I would just totally avoid it at once. And I think that'd be a great system. It would take all the players who are just trying to mess around in comp and make them be serious. So if they really did want to play, then you would have to force. Then they would, get out of group chat and they would really try. But if they were just there to screw around, they wouldn't waste their time talking to a bunch of randoms and joining a game that they wouldn't want. I'm really interested to see which way they go with this, if they're going to really look at the console side, or if they're just going to kind of overlook it and just assume that console players are just going to kind of obey the feature. Getting into character changes. Now, this is what I'm very, happy with. This is what everyone wants to hear. Now, the first character change that's going to come about is Pharah. And this is a change that's very much needed, and it's a change that I'm really excited about. Now, Pharah, for me, is harder to deal with than like high college level math problems. I have so much easier doing derivatives and integrals than ever killing a Pharah. And, it should be easy. You have a McCree, you have a soldier, you knock her out of the air. Simple as that. But for some reason, my group of friends, we have such a hard time killing a Pharah. And you can say it's for good reason. If you have a Mercy boost and you have that Pharah Mercy combo, there's essentially no killing her. And we've even run into kind of situations where they'll have a Symmetra and they'll just give her 75 shield with a Mercy. And then sometimes they'll even throw a Torbjorn on it as well, so another 45, and essentially makes her impossible to kill. And people are finding more and more ways to kind of exploit this task of trying to kill a Pharah because she's already so difficult, and there are just more and more ways to make her almost unkillable. So essentially what the changes are coming about are they're lowering her damage when she does a direct rocket hit. Pharah does 120 damage per direct hit. It's going to be lowered to about 90, which is substantial. Blizzard does not want you to be able to two-shot Pharah's direct counter anymore. Essentially what this is going to be is that it's going to take either 3 or 4 shots to kill soldiers or McCrees, making them and making killing Pharah a lot easier of a task. And the really interesting what they're doing with her is they're making it so if she takes damage from her direct counter, that being soldier or McCree, she will automatically have a jetpack malfunction and she falls out of the air. And this is kind of interesting, and it can go one or two ways. It can be really good, but they didn't go into a ton of specifics. Is she going to be stuck on the ground for 5 seconds after she gets hit? Is it as soon as her feet touch the ground she can jump right back up? Is she grounded for 30 seconds? What timeline is it that she has to be sitting on the ground or that she's going to fall? Then, at the same time, if it's just one shot, a soldier has 24, 25 bullets in a clip. Hitting one shot on a Pharah isn't that difficult of a thing. So if it just takes one shot to knock her out of the air, essentially I feel like that's just going to ground her. She has one big advantage other than her damage, and that is being able to fly and being able to be so hard to hit. If you're able to just take one shot and knock her out of the air, you're essentially just turning into her another ground character. So is this going to be the kind of thing that totally changes her and totally makes her unusable in competitive? Or is this going to be something that's going to be very minor? It's just going to have to see how Blizzard actually makes it work in the game and how they balance it. Next character is Genji. We don't have to talk a lot about Genji. Essentially, he's getting a minor buff, essentially just making his reflect more streamlined. It's improving its overall reliability. It makes him automatically say, I need healing whenever he uses his reflect ability, just because a lot of the players who play Genji are using that ability to get out of a bad situation, and they do tend to need healing. It's an interesting change, and it's a kind of a funny change, but it's not really something that we need to go really in depth into. Sombra is the next character we're going to get into, and the recipient of yet another buff. She has been buffed more than any other character in the game, it seems. Every time they're doing a new patch, Sombra's always in here. But she is finally getting the damage buff that I think she needed. Talking with friends and kind of talking with just people in the community, everyone seems to think that Sombra would be so good just if she had more damage. Compared to Tracer, compared to Reaper, and all the other DPS characters, she was never really able to stand up. She always had an issue with kind of matching up to the other attack heroes. Now with this, she's going to be kind of scary, and she's going to be a threat. Before this patch, she's kind of been almost like a gnat, where it's like, you're just not paying attention, all of a sudden she comes out of nowhere and she starts buzzing in your ear, and you slap your side of your head, and you're like, oh god, that scared me. And then she goes away. A few seconds later, the gnat's in the other ear, and you slap it again, and you try to get it, and for 5 minutes you're just trying to kill this gnat, and eventually it's just, and you got her. Like, that, it was that. But it's never really a threat. Like, she's been more of an annoyance and a pest than she has been a true threat to the game. And now with this damage buff, I truly think that she is going to be very good. I think that pair her with a Tracer or a Genji, and your backlines are going to be gone. Your healers are going to need healers, and those healers are going to need even more healers, because those two are going to be so hard to kill, and they're going to take so much time to just get out of the match that people are just going to have... It's just going to be very bad. It's going to be an interesting way to see how this change kind of affects her play. I think she's going to be very viable and competitive now. Junkrat is receiving the next change, and even though he just received a buff that he can't kill himself with his own bombs, which has been fantastic, he's receiving another buff, and that buff is going to be that his bombs are going to be sticky bombs. So essentially, if you get hit with one of the grenades, it's going to stick to an enemy, and they won't be able to, and they won't even explode on impact either. Instead, Junkrat will be able to detonate whenever he pleases, so I like this change and I hate it. For killing tanks and larger enemies, I see this being amazing, and I can see, sticking a Ryan with 5 bombs, or sticking a Diva, or even sticking Orisa with 5 or 6, or even a clip of his grenades, and then waiting for a second, waiting for him to back up into his team, and then killing. And then just exploding them all and maybe killing 2 or 3 at a time. And, that could be very interesting, but I hate it for the reason of holding chokes and killing squishies. It's going to come down to how the grenades change and how Blizzard makes them interact with the environment around them. But if they don't bounce, or if they don't ricochet off walls like they do now, then holding a choke is going to be much harder with Junkrat. It's going to be a lot more skill-based, and it's going to take a little more strategy to be able to hold a choke if they're not bouncing everywhere and creating so much chaos. Also, when it comes to hitting smaller characters, it helps having the bombs explode on impact. If I was battling a soldier in a one-on-one situation, and I hit him once and I could immediately throw my secondary grenade and just explode it and kill him on impact, now if I have to hit him with 2 bombs, explode it, and then throw mine, and then explode that, it seems like a lot more work, and I feel like in that area of exploding all these bombs and trying to focus on what's going on, I feel like there's going to be time for these very skilled characters and these DPS heroes to just take out Junkrat before he has time to actually explode his secondary bomb and finish the kill. So, it's just going to kind of see how it goes. This could be a very good buff, or it could be somewhat of a nerf. It's just going to kind of see on really how they make these grenades interact and what changes they bring about to the grenades. That's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think. If you love these changes, if you hate them, if you think Blizzard's on the right track, if you think they're just kind of changing things for the sake of changing things, let me know in the comments section below what your opinion is. I'd love to interact with you guys and see, where your thoughts are on these kind of things. But, as always, stay achieving, and I will see you guys at the next video.